through this bridge first. It's not often that we have the opportunity to get through this bridge. This is the lowest bridge in this part of the river. So quite often the tide is too high for us to fix the boat. For the last 3 or 4 hours the river level has been dropping. Maybe even more than that. About 5 hours the river level has been dropping. So we can safely fit the boat through the bridge. So you get a nice photograph looking to your right of the Parliament building. So the new Palace of Westminster. This is the seat to the British government. They opened the building in 1852. Queen Victoria opened the building. Queen Victoria opened the building to celebrate Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, so 60 years as Queen. They named the tower to your right the Victoria Tower. So you've got one in front of us to your right. It's got the Union flag flying, named after Queen Victoria. The 2 towers of the Parliament building. So there's 2 towers. They're named after this country's longest reigning monarchs, Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth. So the clock tower, the most famous part of the building, everybody calls the clock tower Big Ben. None of you can see Big Ben from here. The name of the tower, the Elizabeth Tower. The name of the clock, this is the Great Clock of Westminster. Big Ben is the name of the bell that strikes the hour. So you don't see Big Ben, you hear it. There's 2 bells in the tower. One of them chimes every 15 minutes. They call it the quarter bell. I don't know if it's already chimed, I may have missed it. So it's 1/4 the hour now. They probably chimed it already. It will strike again in 15 minutes. And then on the hour, you'll hear Big Ben. Oh, there you go. So that bell you just heard, that's the quarter bell. Big Ben strikes the hour. You've then got a little building on the top of the staircase here to your right. This is Black Rod Prison, and the staircase there, this is Black Rod Stairs. This is the first and the smallest prison in the country. That building is where they would hold traitors to the crown. The traitors, they were found guilty of treason at the Parliament building. They would have been put into a boat, rowed down the river, and they would have been rowed to the Tower of London. And the plan for the traitor, they would have been executed. But before the execution took place, before they were put into a boat, they were held in that building for 24 hours. It's a listed building. Nothing happens in it at all. It's just a listed building, stands on the top of the staircase. Black Rod Stairs and Black Rod Prison. The area to your right, this is the city of Westminster. You're going to pass through 2 cities on the journey down the river to Tower Pier. You're going to leave the city of Westminster, and then the area will become the capital city of London. Surrounding the 2 cities, you've got Greater London. Greater London, there is 32 boroughs, or 32 areas. The area in front of us is the borough of Lambeth. You're going to leave Lambeth when we go back through the bridge, and you're going to enter into Southwark. But there's 32 areas that make up Greater London, surrounding the 2 cities that you'll pass through on the journey. This is Lambeth Bridge here to your right. You've then got Lambeth Palace in front of you to your right. As we turn the boat, you'll see it behind the trees. Lambeth Palace is the London residence for the Archbishop of Canterbury. I point it out, but you can't really see it too well behind the trees to your right. And then looking in front of you to your left, you get a lovely photograph there of the Parliament building. And the 2 towers, Victoria Tower and the Elizabeth Tower. London's most popular tourist attraction is the London Eye. So here to your right, it stands 452 feet. This is the 4th largest observation wheel in the world. There is 32 glass pods, which isn't a random number. Each pod represents one of the 32 London boroughs. So each of the pods is an area for Greater London. The idea when you get to the very top, on a good clear day, so a day like today, you see about 40 miles. So you see every single one of the 32 boroughs. And what they say is you're looking over London from the top, and that's why they call it the London Eye. All the way along to your right, this is the South Bank of London. So they call this the new entertainment area for London. So you get a lot of the theatres now, you get bars, you get restaurants. Throughout the Christmas period, there'll be a market that stretches all the way down the river here. So you like your Christmas markets, there'll be one opening very soon. I know they're starting to open it now, and it will go from here all the way down to Tower Bridge. The Riverside Pathway runs all the way to Tower Bridge, and there will be a Christmas market that will run all the way along. On your left, you've got a large Gothic style building. This is Whitehall Court Mansion. This building is a hotel today. This is the Royal Horse Guards Hotel. So this is the Royal Horse Guards Hotel. The building itself is where Sir Winston Churchill had wartime offices. There's a museum here today, the Sir Winston Churchill Wartime Office Museum. Behind this building, you've got Downing Street, the home of the Prime Minister. Going land, you've got the West End. So you've got Covent Garden, Oxford Street, Leicester Square. That's all here to your left-hand side. You've got the railway bridge. You can hear the train or see the train going across in front of us. Either side of the railway line, you've got walkways. These are the Golden Jubilee bridges. Wave to the people on the bridges. If they don't wave back, they're from London. And they are miserable people, miserable Londoners. What people like to do for these bridges, though, is throw things on the boats. And you can't do anything about it. So just wave and smile and hope for the best. You've got the Charing Cross Railway Bridge and the Golden Jubilee footbridges. On your right, you've got the Royal Festival Hall. In that building, they say you get some of the best acoustics in the world. Some of the world's best performers, they've played in the building. Over the years, you've had Frank Sinatra performing there, Pavarotti, Sir Elton John. More recently, some of the biggest names that performed in the building. And it's home today to the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. On your left, we've got a tall stone Egyptian obelisk. This is Cleopatra's Needle, said to be 3,500 years old. So older than London itself, carved in Egypt. The needles, they were carved in pairs, and the twin stands in Central Park, New York City. You've also got the Savoy Hotel, the building of the green flat roof. You may have heard of the famous Savoy at the Strand before, the first luxury hotel in London. You can stay in the roof. To stay up there, you pay £11,000 a night. So this is an expensive hotel. This bridge, this is the Waterloo Bridge. This bridge was built during the Second World War. When they built it, the men working on it, they were called away to fight. And all of the work, it was took over by the women. The ladies built this bridge. This bridge was built by a 90% female workforce. And they call it the Ladies' Bridge. Built by the women. That is the Ladies' Bridge over the Thames. You've got to your right the concrete building of the electronic sign. This is the Royal National Theatre. In this building there is 3 theatres, and they are some of the best in the country. The outside lets it down, looks like a car park or a power station. It's an ugly building, but going in there, very different. So that is the Royal National Theatre. All part of the South Bank, which you can now see a little bit clearer there. The Riverside Pathway running all the way along. On your left, looking across, you're looking at the black and white boat. This is the St. Catherine. This used to be a royal barge, so royalty would use the river. They came onto the Thames, and this is the boat that they would have used. Fell into disrepair, so royalty stopped using it. It was falling to pieces. They had a new boat built, which is called the Gloriana, and the St. Catherine today is a bar and a restaurant, permanently moored on the river as a floating bar. The large white ship to your left, this is the Wellington. It was part of the New Zealand Navy, permanently on the Thames today. At the back end of the ship, there's a stone archway. The archway you'll see in a moment, Temple Arch or Temple Gates. And the archway, this marks the boundary line to the City of London. So you're now leaving the City of Westminster. The area to your left, this is where you enter into the City of London. So the capital city is now here to your left. The City of London measures 1 square mile. From here to Tower Bridge. Tower Bridge is the eastern boundary line. We're 1 mile away from the bridge. So this is now the capital to your left. They call it the Golden Mile because it's mainly banks. Looking into the area today, it's mainly offices of banks. So it's a wealthy place and they call it the Golden Mile. If you've heard of the stock cube, the OXO stock cube, which I'm sure some of you have, it was made in London and it was made in the building here to your right. This red brick building is apartments today, but it was a warehouse, a cold meat warehouse run by the OXO company where they made the stock cube. So you might know the building, the OXO Tower, the OXO building. Company logo is in the tower at the very top. Become an iconic building every night. Those letters that you see in the windows, they shine out in red. So I'm sure you've heard of it before, OXO Tower. The top floor of the building is a restaurant. The restaurant is run by Harvey Nichols. Gets voted one of the top 5 of restaurants here in London. Harvey Nichols and the OXO Tower. This building to your right is a hotel, Sea Containers House, offices at the bottom, the top 2 floors are restaurants, and on the roof that's a bar. You might see the plants at the top behind the word containers. There's a recently opened rooftop bar. This glass building to your right, these are the newest apartments. A brand new apartment building. The official name of it is number 1 Blackfriars. They sold the 4-bedroom penthouse to the top floor. They sold it for £27 million. So they're all multi-million pound apartments, as you can imagine, and the top floor, the most expensive one. This bridge, this is the Blackfriars Road Bridge. The second one is the railway bridge. And then in between the 2 bridges, there is red columns. The columns in between, they're the remains of an old bridge. It became unsafe. And as you see that, they took off the top of the bridge. So they removed the top and they left the red columns. It was crumbling away, became unsafe, so they had to take off the top. Steam trains would cross the bridge here, cross the river here, coming from Kent, Dover in Kent. They crossed into the city of London and they would go across that bridge. On your left, you have St Paul's Cathedral. St Paul's stands 365 feet, so dominates the skyline to your left. 1 foot of the cathedral is built for every day of the year. So to the tip of the cross, 365 feet. The second largest unsupported cathedral dome in the world. Look at the top of the dome. There's a viewing platform. So you see all the people up there today? Lots of people standing on the balcony, you see. This is called the Golden Gallery. There's 2 levels of St Paul's. One's at the top of the columns. So you see that just above the columns there's a balcony as well. It's called the Whispering Gallery, or you can go to the very top of the dome and stand. The people standing there, the Golden Gallery. The problem with St Paul's, there's no lifts, there's no escalators. And to get to the very top, you walk up 528 steps. It's a spiral staircase to get to the top. But the views are worth the walk. It takes about half an hour to get up there. It's about half an hour to get back down. It'll be about a week to recover. So do be careful. You've got the Arts Gallery to your right, Tate Modern, free to visit. Most visited modern art gallery in the world. Apparently used to be a power station, now it's modern art. This bridge, this is the Millennium Footbridge. You might know it as the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. They built it for the year 2000 and they opened the bridge and the wind picked up and it moved the bridge side to side. They found out they built it too light and the wind shook the bridge. So they had to quickly evacuate, they had to close the bridge. They re-strengthened it and it doesn't shake anymore, but they give it the nickname the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. On your right, just behind the trees, you've got the white round building with a thatched roof. This is the William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. There has been 3 theatres, 3 Globe Theatres standing here at Bankside. The first one was built in 1599. The original burnt down during a performance. During a performance in 1613, they wanted to use a cannon as a prop. They used a real cannon, it backfired and it burned the theatre down. A new one was built, but it was closed by Parliament for whatever reason. This is the replica. So the replica there behind you now, where they perform William Shakespeare's plays. Plays, they're all performed traditionally, exactly as they would have been performed in the original, so there's no stage lighting, there's no sound effects, there's no microphones. Actors, they dress up in the traditional clothing. Brilliant value for money. You'll be able to pick up a standing ticket and it's only £10. So brilliant value for live entertainment here in London. You then got this bridge, this is the Southwark Road Bridge. Tucked in the corner of the next bridge, there's a pub. The pub is called the Anchor, and the pub was built in 1615. So parts of this pub, 400 years old. It's a very old, very famous riverside pub. You can see another little seating area outside. There's a fish and chip shop in the pub. Very popular, especially when the sun is out. This is the Anchor to your right. See the windows in the attics? They say that William Shakespeare used the pub as changing rooms, using the pub before performing in the theatres nearby. This area to your right, this is the old entertainment district. So today, where you would go to the West End for the theatres, years ago you came here instead. This is a notorious area. It's where you found the illegal fighting. You had the gambling dens, the cross boards. It all took place here on your right, in Southwark to your right. On your right, for the children, you can see a pirate ship, a working replica to Sir Francis Drake's Golden Hind. The original Golden Hind sailed the world, and the replica has been around the world twice. It looks like a model, but it's a real life, a fully working pirate ship. You can see this bridge now. This is the world famous London Bridge. This bridge was built in 1973, and it is the 5th London Bridge in 2,000 years. The bridge that stood before this one, it was sinking into the mud. Sinking in the 60s, they sold it to an American oil tycoon called Robert McCulloch. They bought the bridge for $2 million. They moved it to America. They rebuilt London Bridge, Lake Havasu City in Arizona. So in the Arizona desert, that's where you find the 4th London Bridge standing today. On your left, looking through the gap in the buildings, there's a column and it's got a golden top. You have to look quickly, but this is the monument to the Great Fire of London. This is, there to your left, Sir Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire. They designed it to look like a candle. They believe a candle started the fire in a baker shop on Pudding Lane on the 2nd of September, 1666. Now look to your right, you've got the Shard. This is Western Europe's tallest building. Stands just over 1,000 feet. They designed it to look like broken glass, so shards of glass fell from the sky. On the 72nd floor, there is a viewing level. So you can stand about 3/4 of the way up, and you do get great views. The problem to go up there, you do have to pay, and it can become expensive. Peak times, you pay up to £50 each. So it's a little bit expensive going to the Shard. So what we like to mention, you've got a building to your left. I don't know if they're open today because I haven't seen anybody up here at all. But looking at the top of the building, at the curved roof, see the balcony? This is called the Sky Garden. You go up there free of charge. It doesn't cost a penny. The top floor, there were the 2 top floors. It's a massive indoor garden. You can walk all the way around it. You've got the balcony there as well at the front, and you go up there free of charge. This is called the Sky Garden. You can pre-book a ticket online, and you go up there for free. This, to your right, warship, the HMS Belfast, built in Belfast, Northern Ireland, launched on St. Patrick's Day, 1938. Saw lots of action throughout the Second World War. Last fired the guns in anger in the 50s in the Korean War campaign. They were flagship for the United Nations. They passed through Tower Bridge in the 70s. The warship has been here ever since and is a floating museum. This is an extension to the Imperial War Museum. There's 9 levels. You go through the entrance right up to the captain's wheelbox on top. Very quiet on there today. They're open to the public. You see the people on boards. You can walk around. Now we're turning the boat now. Our destination is there to your left. We're going to turn the boat. We get a side-on view of Tower Bridge. So instead of going straight into the pier, we turn nice and slowly, and you get a lovely photograph as we do. Now this is probably the most recognisable bridge in the world. Tower Bridge, very famous. The bridge can open. It's a part bascule bridge and a part suspension bridge. The 2 sets of parts, they open to allow taller ships to pass through. If you would like to see the bridge lift up, you have to be very lucky. was to be in the right place at the right time. The bridge opened this morning, but some of you might have seen it. If you were here, you would have seen the bridge lifts. They only lift it when somebody books it to lift up. So you have to be in the right place at the right time. So if you would like to see it lift, what you can do is look on the website. There's a website for the bridge, and on that website, they publish the times for whenever they are going to lift it. The next time the bridge will open is Thursday evening at 6:15. So if you're still here on Thursday, 6:15, the bridge is going to lift. So it doesn't open every day, but the next time is Thursday evening, 6:15. Tower Bridge was built in 1894, designed by a man called Sir John Wolfe-Barry, and they designed the bridge in the Gothic style, so the bridge blends in with the castle that sits next door. And looking to your right now, you see the famous fortress of the Tower of London, a historic royal palace, open to the public, home to the King's Crown Jewels, which are on display. Being many things in its time, most famously used for torture, for imprisonment and for execution. And then if you look to your right, you'll see water coming out of the river wall. Next to that water, you'll see the words written, entry to the Traitors' Gates. And then underneath the words, you've got the bricked up arch. This would have been the river entrance for traitors to pass through. Found guilty of treason at the Parliament building. Traitors, they were put into boats, they were rowed down the river, and they would have been rowed through the arch. So some of you might remember the little prison up at Westminster, where they would hold the traitors. So they would put them into a boat there, row them down the river, and they'd be rowed through the arch. Remember, the punishment was execution. Famously, a traitor would have been took onto Tower Hill, and in front of a crowd next to the castle, a traitor would have been hung, drawn, and quartered. So chopped into 4 bits. They would have chopped off the traitor's head with a large blunt axe. So execution was the punishment. Very gruesome execution took place here to your right. They don't do that anymore. That doesn't happen today. Today the castle is open to the public. Today you've got rehabilitation, you've got community service, 80 hours community service, normally sorts people out, and they don't need to do that anymore. So today you've got the King's Crown Jewels. They're here instead. Now hopefully you've got a nice photograph there as we turn the boat. We're going to be making our way into the next stop now, so Tower Pier, that's here on your right. Now we are going to stay here for 10 minutes, and then we continue the journey down the river to Greenwich Pier. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see we've left Tower Pier. We're on the way down to Greenwich, so we'll be there in around 25 minutes. We just slow down here, just because you've got a big wave that follows us down the river. So we slow down, you've got big passenger views around us now. We've got houseboats in front of us as well. We slowly go past these, and then we'll speed up. We'll be at Greenwich about 25 minutes. Now just leaving the pier, again we are just required to mention we are fully equipped with all of the up-to-date life-saving equipment that's needed. Comes in a form of life rafts and life jackets. Everything is clearly marked around the boat by green and cream stickers. The crew on board are fully trained. In the unlikely event of any sort of emergency, just follow any instructions given and you'll hear announcements that come over the PA system. There's no need to worry, sit back, relax, enjoy the cruise. If you have any questions to ask, it's a lovely afternoon here in London, so a nice time to come onto the river. It'll be a nice trip down to Greenwich. Nice photograph behind you as well to start the journey. Nice view of Tower Bridge. You can look through the bridge and you can see St Paul's Cathedral framed through the middle. If you get further away, more of the cathedral will come into view. You've got the column there with the golden top, the monument to the Great Fire of London. You can get all of that behind you. That's made for a lovely view. The areas that you're passing through on the journey down the river, this is where a lot of the shipping would have took place. So what you are mostly going to see is apartments. A lot of these buildings around you, they've been converted from warehouses. So they stored cargo. Today, They are multi-million-pound apartments. You can imagine the price that you pay to get a view of the bridge. Every single one of these apartments with the river view, you pay £10 million for a 2-bedroom apartment. That is the reality of the house prices in this part of Thames. The areas you're passing through, you've got Bermondsey to your right, so this is South London. This is Bermondsey. You're going to get round this bend in front of us. You're going to get to Rotherhithe, Deptford, and then the area will become Greenwich. On your left, this area is the east end of London. The East End, very famous today, runs from Tower Bridge to Canary Wharf. Around the bend you see Canary Wharf. Very famous for cockneys. You might have heard of them before, cockneys. You've got Jack the Ripper. In the 1800s, the young ladies were murdered by the notorious Jack the Ripper. That's in Whitechapel, an area inland in East End. Bethnal Green is inland there as well. That's where the Cray twins are from. So if you've heard of Jack the Ripper, the Cray twins, cockneys, I'm sure you've heard of the East End before. Going around on the bed, you've got a blue and white building, you can see. Our base is to your right, this is our base. Across from where we are, you've got the blue and white building, and as we come around the bend, you see a pier here as well. And what you see is police boats alongside. This is the base of the Thames River Police. The Thames Police Force, they are the oldest uniformed police force in the world. The Thames Police, they date back to 1798. There was a police force on this river before there was police on the land in London. They were introduced to tackle thieving and piracy. Piracy became a massive problem along the Thames. Pirates would come up and steal the cargo of being stored. If a pirate was caught stealing, they were executed. How they thought they could tackle the problem of the piracy, they would execute the pirates. But it didn't really stop the piracy, so they introduced the Thames River Police. In 1798, they're based into your left-hand side. On your right, you've got a church coming up. This is the area, this is Rotherhithe now, and the church you can see. You see the church steeple in the tree today. This is St Mary's Church at Rotherhithe. Buried in the church, you've got Christopher Jones. He was the captain of the pilgrim ship, the Mayflower. And you see a pub coming up to your right as well. It's the flag of the United States flies from the front of the London River Wall. You've got the Union flag there as well. So scaffolding around it. Normally you see the name flag, scaffolding. On the roof you see a replica of a ship. You see a weather made of the roof. That famous pub, named after the pilgrim ship, the Mayflower. The Mayflower ship set sail from this area in 1620, leaving London, leaving Rotherhithe in 1620, going down the Thames around the coast of the country, picking up pilgrim fathers, stopping along the way, and eventually going on to what you now know as the United States of America. That famous journey that voyage that really started on the Rotherhithe to Southport. There's another pub on your left. Looking on your left, you've got a white fronted pub next to the tree. This is the Prospect of Whitby. This is the oldest pub in the tidal part of the Thames. This pub was built in 1550. When they built it, it was called the Pelican, but it became so notorious, it was so famous for crime, they nicknamed it the Devil's Tavern. So you may have heard of this pub before, known as the Devil's Tavern. Famous for pickpockets, thieves, murderers, ladies of the night. This is the pub they go into that pub today, nothing has changed. Exactly the same. Very notorious pub in the East End. This area of the river as well, they used to call it the Devil's Punch Bowl. They say pirates would come on the Thames, steal the cargo, of course. They would anchor their ships in this part of the river, row ashore, rob the buildings, get back on the ships, disappear off the sea. You can imagine very easy to steal from these buildings, no CCTV, no security, no way to control the piracy. The reason the pirates came here These areas around you is where the expensive cargo was stored, especially in the area to your left. On your right, in Bermondsey, you'd have had tea and spice. On your left, you'd have had gold and silver. You'd have had ivory, big warehouses full of ivory tusks. You'd had silk, alcohol, tobacco. It was all stored in the eastern part. So you can imagine a lot of the feeding would take place in these areas. Tea, very expensive. Spice, very expensive as well. Also an expensive cargo to your left. On your left, you've got the sandy coloured buildings with the white arched windows. These are listed buildings today. They're apartments now, but they are listed buildings, and they were prisons. These were holding cells for criminals. Convicts were held in these buildings like this all over the country. The prisons, they were full up, so they would send the criminals away. Convicts, they were sent to other areas of the Commonwealth. They were loaded onto ships, and they would be sent away. Petty criminals, young children, would be sent away from this country. The original destination was America. The Americans gained independence and put a stop to it. So they found a new destination and they sent thousands of criminals to Australia. There was big camps in Australia that held convicts in this country. So the punishment for crime would be sent to Australia to live. They don't do that anymore. It doesn't happen today. It's not a punishment. It's not a punishment anymore. So they don't do that today. You're going to hear instead. Criminals, they stay. You got a pub to your left. See that red brick pub is owned by Gordon Ramsay, the celebrity chef. You've heard of Gordon Ramsay before. He owns a few restaurants in central London all over the world. He owns that pub there as well. There's another pub owned by another famous man coming up to your left. You've got these narrow brown apartments. The last one, there's a pub, it's got 3 balconies and you see gold lettering at the top. This pub is called The Grapes and it was made famous by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens lived in the attics of the pub. This pub now is owned by Sir Ian McKellen. So if you've heard of Gandalf out Lord of the Rings, you might have heard of him before. He owns that famous pub. He also lives 4 doors away. So you see the 2 statues. There's one in the river standing on the column. There's a statue on the balcony. See the statues of people. The yellow one on the balcony. So they're Anthony Gormley statues. They're owned by Sir Ian McKellen. That is his London home. That's where we do something. He lives next to the pub that he owns as well. Now we've got Canary Wharf there to your left. So Canary Wharf, this is of course the working complex. This is the financial district of London. And this is where you now leave the East End. So the East End of London, that's now behind you. This area is now the Isle of Dogs. The Isle of Dogs is a peninsula and it sits on a horseshoe bend. So in front of us, the river is a straight section, but it bends to the left. And the river continues to bend around this area. You can imagine it, it's a horseshoe bend, like a big bend. This is an island. This is a man-made island. They split off the area in the 14th century. They split off the land for the shipping on the river. When you had the big sailing ships, ships moving cargo to London, they struggled to get the ships around the bend. So they dug a canal through the bottom of the area. So they split off the land. Where you see Canary Wharf today was a river that ran through. The ships no longer had to go round the big bend, they could pass through the area instead. They split off the land, they created the island, and they call it today Isle of Dogs. This area was derelict, completely derelict for a long time. They wanted to develop the area, but the problem with it would continuously grow. The river would rise well above the land. What it created in these areas was marshes. So in this part of the river, what you would imagine is just sticky, wet marshes. They built up these river walls. So you can see around you concrete river walls, they were built up to take away the floods. They pumped the land dry and they developed the area. To your left, the area was developed into some of the busiest docks in the world. On your left, what you had is the West India Dock, the Millwall Dock, and the East India Dock systems. That's all here on the left-hand side. The docks, they still remain. They are still here, but of course it's hard to see. Because one, you've got the apartments and you've got the boat type. But if you look from the sky, what you see through the middle of this area is large space. Through the middle of the land here is just water, it's just docks. I see them here today. They are unused, of course, because they were very busy docks with cargo being moved around, but no ships come here anymore. There's nothing really to do in the area to get there. You got around the edge of the apartments, you've got the airport, and in the middle of the land, it's just a large area to build up. They became redundant when the ship stopped coming. Over the next 30 years, they plan to fill it in. What they plan for this area is to turn it into a mini Manhattan. That's how they describe it. So what they're going to do is pump the land dry, get rid of the docks, and then they'll fill it all in and stretch out the area wall. They plan to stretch the glass buildings all the way to the edge of this building. And that's what they say they're going to create a Manhattan. They would never ever get rid of the apartments. They'd always be. Look back to Canary Wharf now, in the middle of the land, in the middle of the apartments. Look through the middle of the area, there's nothing there at all. It's all empty. It's just large areas. In the next 30 years, the skyline will change massively. And you can look back at Canary Wharf and see 3 or 4 buildings. Building work is continuous at Canary Wharf, and it won't stop until they stretch the area of Canary Wharf to the edge of the bend. We're going to go around this bend. So we're going to start to get around the bend, and what you see in front of you is the Royal Borough of Greenwich. So Greenwich is our destination, it's our next stop, and we'll be there in about 5 minutes. You can see it as soon as we start to come around the bend.